Hey, welcome to a special presentation. We're with Ryan Slaughter. Duane Rigsby and I are going to talk about the Blueberry, Bramble, and Wine Grape Field Night. So stay tuned. We have a special presentation. Duane, do you have a farm? Do you have a garden? Do you grow things?
I do. Yes.
And do you grow fruit?
We do raise some strawberries.
Strawberries?
Yes.
I am not a farmer. Okay, I think I've said that about 30,000 times. But it seems like when you live on a farm and you do various different things, it's always natural to grow certain kinds of fruits and different things of that nature. And have you grown strawberries a lot? Have you grown other kinds of fruits?
No, not really. Mainly, excuse me, mainly just strawberries.
Strawberries?
Yeah. The other ones are okay, but we just don't have the land to do that.
You know, to the listening audience, Duane has a lot of field experience at at the South Centers, OSU South Centers, and in the agricultural end, it takes more than just planting a seed, as I'm finding out. And with us today is Ryan Slaughter. Ryan Slaughter is a research assistant. He's with the Horticulture Department. And Ryan, it's really great having you come to tell about why Duane and I should come to the Blueberry, Bramble, Wine Grape Field Night.
Okay. Yep, like I said, I work with the horticulture program, and actually we recently went through a rebranding. We'll be calling ourselves the Center for Specialty Crops. And that kind of encompasses everything that we do here. We not only do berries, but we do hops, pumpkins, we've done tomatoes in the past, so that kind of new rebranding will encompass everything that we've got going on here at South Centers. Like you said, the workshop that we got coming up, Blueberry, Bramble, and Wine Grape Field Night, that name doesn't necessarily encompass everything that we will be talking about that night. We've got some new crops that we're excited to talk about that we've established here at South Centers, and that we would think would be great additions for people to plant in their either home gardens or their commercial gardens. So we'll be talking about all kinds of things.
So what do you mean by bramble? I've only heard the term loosely.
Yep, well, bramble includes raspberries and blackberries. That's just a kind of a broad name for that class of fruit. Something that you see a lot in publications referring to those types of crops. So, kind of an unusual name, yeah.
That's interesting. And you've been to many of the field nights, have you not, Duane?
Yes, I have here. We've had several different varieties of field nights.
You know, what are some of the things that, you know, since you are a farmer, if you know, I'm going to air quote that.
All right.
Why would you want to go to some of these field nights?
Well, I think if you're going to the field night, you're either you are a beginning farmer, or you are a current farmer that is looking for new techniques. I feel, is that what you think, Ryan? I mean, we are a research facility, so we are trying new ways to either grow that crop or put different nitrogens or different applications to those particular plots. Is that right?
Yeah, I think you said it, Duane. We're a really unique facility. We are research, but we've also got an extension appointment. So what the great thing about our facility is that we do the research here. Everything that we have is grant funded, so we put in these plots. We look at best management practices for growing new crops, or established crops like blueberries and blackberries, and then we can pass that information on to growers or home gardeners or whoever is interested in that information. That's the great thing about this facility, is that we do both here. So we do that through social media, websites, publications, and then these are really fun. We have these field nights. We have people come in and learn about stuff, and they can see it firsthand. That's a great learning opportunity for them.
I think if you just take the first word, blueberries, we've had blueberries here for years, and I think we've seen new growers come about that from maybe some of our research. It is, and maybe that become a new money revenue for that farmer. Am I thinking right there too?
Yep. I think one of the things that's always said here is that these research sites we're here to make the mistakes first. That way growers don't waste their money making those mistakes. So one of the most basic things that we can do here is cultivar studies. So we look at, there's always new varieties of blueberries or raspberries or wine grapes coming out. So we can look at those new varieties, how they do here in Southern Ohio, how they do in our native soil. And we have some pretty crummy soils down here. So, we look at that, we see what does well, and we can pass that information on. That's the most basic thing that we can do for growers. And we get into even more in-depth stuff like you mentioned, nitrogen stuff. We look at nutrient studies. We look at, the kind of the big three, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. But we even go down into some of the smaller stuff.
Will we be seeing some of the new spray techniques that you've set up outside? We're not going to spoil it for everybody by watching it right now, but just some things that you can come and watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the field night.
Yep. So one of the new technologies that we've encompassed here is called chemigation. So that's a system. Typically, when you spray a field for insects or fungicides, you would do that with a tractor and a sprayer mounted on the back of that tractor. This chemigation system, it's a permanent system that stays in the field. It's upright, and it uses what are called micro sprinklers. So those are little sprinklers that stick up above the plant canopy. You hook up at a central point with your chemical, and then you just feed it through that system, and it sprays over the entire field all at once. So there's a couple advantages for that. One, you don't have the drive time in the tractor. You can just hook up to the system. You can let that system run its course. It's a very fast method of delivering your chemical product. The other advantage to it is that a lot of times late in the season, especially for blueberry production, which is where we have this system set up, your fruit is very ripe and it's very easy to pick. So a lot of times what will happen is growers will use what's called an air blast sprayer, and that is just like it says, it's blasting lots of air through the canopy of the plant to deliver that product into the canopy of the plant. So what happens is it knocks a lot of fruit off. Late in the season, it'll knock a lot of fruit off, and that's money lost if fruit is falling on the ground. So this chemigation system just sprays above the canopy, it drips down through the canopy. There's no fruit loss in that way. So that's another benefit of that system. And we have that here, we'll be able to see that.
And you'll probably be doing maybe a small demonstration of it? You'll actually put it in production maybe?
That's very possible,
Depending on the weather and obviously how that goes.
Gary, we haven't talked about that yet.
It might be just it might be just water we're spraying over it.
It would be.
While
it
people
would just
are here,
be water.
But,
we did that demonstration last year. It was kind of neat to see that, and people had a lot of questions. So it's kind of a neat system.
I think last year it was new.
It was brand new. Yes, last year.
So just out of curiosity, it sounds like the program is really geared toward those individuals that have a lot of knowledge, like Duane does.
No, absolutely not. This program is great for both that side of it, people who have a lot of knowledge, who are already established, have farms with all these crops on them, but they're also great for new growers who are just wanting to get into it or interested in getting into it. at all of our programs, we tend to have both. We have people who are advanced, and a lot of times they'll come in. We were joking earlier, and they'll offer some advice too. You know, we'll be talking stuff, and they'll say, "Well, this is the way I do it," and I think that's great because as a grower myself, you know, personally. I'm always interested in learning what other people are doing. You know, we do things a certain way here, what we think is best, but other growers who have done it, they'll come in and they'll talk about what they do. And that's a great learning experience for not only us, but for the other people who are here in that workshop. But we've had people who don't know anything. They come and they ask the most basic questions like, well, you know, what is this plant that's growing here? And, well, that's a blackberry. So it's a great workshop for both sides of that area, the more experienced and the less experienced.
So Duane, you growing strawberries and other things, how do you keep the pests out, like the deer and the birds? What do you do, or do you sort of?
Well, in my little plot, it's just surrounded by a fence.
Oh, okay.
For
All right.
things, but in different farms, I guess, you would have to manage that differently. For instance, in the blueberries, here you'll see Ryan, netting over top of the plants, so that'll keep the birds out. And then on the other ones, such as grapes, you've got netting that you're putting over that. Correct?
Yep. Yeah, and this will be a little bit different. This is the latest that we've had this workshop. So you're going to see if people who have come in the past. Typically we do it in July.
Yeah.
You know, this year obviously it's in September. So you're going to see a little bit different things. So for example, the blueberries, the net's already taken off of them. Blueberries are done. We do have a really late variety, but it's only a few plants. So we've already pulled back the net, but we can explain that to people. And then we kind of have a nice thing here. We have two different types of net. So people can see one versus the other, and then we talk about the benefits of both and kind of the cons of both as well. But one thing you will see different this year, we've got grapes that are coming on. They're starting to develop their collar, or they have already, and we have those netted. Birds are one of our biggest predators of fruit here, and they will totally wipe out a crop if you don't protect those. So the grapes right now have some net over top of them. You'll get to see that if you come to the workshop. And we'll explain how that goes on, and maybe we'll even we've got some equipment here that we use that puts that net on, and perhaps we'll have that out just for demonstration purposes as well.
So as a new person, let's suppose I wanted to start a little garden, fruit garden. What would you recommend? What's the easiest or?
The easiest fruit to grow?
Yeah.
That's a tough one, Patrick, because they're all a little difficult to grow. But we've got some kind of weird fruit here that we've looked at in the past. Some of those are elderberry, which is native to North America. We've looked at aronia berry, again, native to North America. Both of those crops are very, very easy to grow. Because they're native to here, they already have kind of the built-in mechanisms for surviving in our climate and our soil types. So those are very easy crops to establish. They do well with minimal attention. They're very easy to prune, to manage in that way, and they require very little as far as fungicides and insecticides, those types of things. So those are great crops that if you're kind of wanting to get your feet wet to get into, because they're really easy. The downside to those two crops is they're not great for fresh fruit. Right. They don't taste very good to just eat them. So a lot of people, what they will do is turn them into a processed product. For example, jelly. Elderberry jelly, if you've ever had it, is really, really good. Very, very tasty. Aronia berry can also be turned into jelly, or a lot of people make health food juices out of it. So you can make kind of a concentrate, and then you can add it to your apple juice or your grape juice or whatever in the morning. So those are kind of neat products or neat fruit that you could start with and get your feet wet with those.
It's interesting.
What about Ryan, as we go along, we've talked about blueberries, brambles, we talked about grapes as far as netting and things. Will we be able to sample some?
We could definitely sample some. Like I said, we've got 13 varieties in the vineyard, and we have 13 wine grape varieties. We do have 2 varieties of table grapes, but they'll be done by then. They're already ripened and have been picked.
Can you tell me the difference between a wine grape and a table grape?
Well, in the most basic form, generally speaking, table grapes are much larger.
Yeah.
You know, if you would imagine grapes that you
Those
buy
are the
in
ones
the
you
supermarket.
typically, you just pick and eat, right?
Yeah,
right out.
So that's what you find in the supermarket. They're very large in size. There's a lot of water content in those berries,
Right.
so that dilutes the sugars a little bit. So they're sweet, but they're not quite as sweet as a wine grape.
Right.
So typically wine grapes are very small in size. The clusters are a little bit larger. Well, sometimes, not always. And the berries are very sweet. So there's a lot of sugar in those berries, and the sugar, as you know, becomes alcohol through the fermentation process. So that's one of the biggest differences between the two.
Is there a difference as far as growing? Can a person grow a wine grape easier than a table grape, or does it really matter?
Well,
in a nutshell, it's a plant.
it depends, and that's a typical extension answer. It depends. So wine grapes, a lot of varieties of wine grapes are very susceptible to disease. Here in Ohio, you know, we've got the perfect climate for a lot of fungal diseases. Hot and humid, just lots of moisture in the air all the time. So, and that really encourages this fungal growth on these grapes. So a lot of these varieties of grapes are susceptible to diseases like black rot, powdery mildew, downy mildew, anthracnose, that types of stuff. Not saying that table grapes aren't, but
they're just a little more tolerable.
they are.
A little more
a
hard,
lot of
I
those
guess.
varieties are a little more tolerable. So wine grapes is a real challenge to raise here in Ohio because of that reason.
But are we seeing people starting to raise wine grapes because we're seeing all these new little breweries and vineyards and micro things popping up?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you mentioned breweries. Breweries are blowing up in Ohio. And I don't know the statistic, but I think last year there was well over 200, and the growth is exponential. Wineries, on the other hand, or the kind of the grape side of that alcohol industry, has been a real steady growth. Very steady growth over a long period of time. Currently, there are over 300 wineries here in the state of Ohio, I believe. And like I said, that's been a long trend of growth. And as far as vineyards, there's a push, especially in the brewing side industry, is that to use local products, local hops, local barley, what have you, that goes into the beer process. There has not so much been that push for the wine industry because people already have this mindset that, you know, Pinot Grigio or, you know, a dry red might be a Cabernet Sauvignon or something like that comes from California or Italy or areas that people typically think of good wine coming from. But here in Ohio, we maybe not necessarily can grow those varieties very well, but we have varieties that do well here in Ohio that make very, very good wine. And if people give them a try, I think that a lot of people find that these wines that are being produced with Ohio grapes are very comparable or even better than some of the wines that people are used to that are coming from across the world or from the other coast.
So this Blueberry, Bramble, and Wine Grape Field Night, when is that, September or June? September the 6th.
Correct.
At what time?
We're starting a little bit early this year. Typically we start at 6, I think, 5:30 or 6. Well, it is starting at 5:30 this year, and we're ending a little earlier this year. What we ran into last year is that we had it in late August, and we forgot that it got dark dark earlier than July, and we're really going to run into that in September. So last year we had to turn the lights on in the tractor and get everybody back inside.
Yeah.
We'll probably still run into that this year, but September's usually, the weather's really nice, so we're really looking forward to having it in September this year.
Okay.
And like I mentioned before, people who have been here in the past to some of our field nights, they're going to get to see a little bit different this year, just because of the timing. So
anyone's welcome. Should they just show up, or what's the plan?
Please, well, if they do just show up, we can accommodate that. But we would really prefer people to RSVP. And I'm looking here at my cheat sheet. You would either call in to our facility, 740-289-2071, and ask for Bradford, and he'll help you register for the event. Or you can just get on our website and look for that event, and you can find the information to RSVP.
Is there a cost?
There is. The cost is $25 per person, or $40 for a family up to 3 people. So if you've got a family that would like to come, it would benefit you to register all together. That's a cost that helps us cover our foods. We will have a dinner. I think we're having pizza maybe that night, and chicken wings. So we always have something to eat, and then we head out to the field. This event will be all outside, other than dinner. So we'll eat dinner inside and then go outside.
So bring a pair of boots, possibly.
Yeah,
And a little sweater.
Damp.
And a little sweater.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Yeah. So we always encourage people to pay attention to your weather channel to figure out what the weather is going to be like that evening. And we will be outside, so wear your boots. It might be wet, might be raining. This is a rain or shine event, so we will be outside regardless.
Okay. So all an individual has to do is give Brad Sherman a shout, or you, Ryan.
Sure.
Or anyone at the South Centers.
Yep, you could just call in the South Centers if you can't find the information and ask about the berry workshop, if you just want to call it that.
And
we'll get you in touch.
That's September 6th, Thursday. And I believe that they're asking that people call in before September 1st or August 31st. Is that correct?
Yes. The deadline to register is August 31st. And that just gives us some time to get the last minute preparation set up for food and all that.
Okay. And, they can pay at the door, correct?
They can pay at the door, or they can pay over the phone with a credit card.
Okay. All right. Very good. It sounds like a really good program that you have. I know, Duane, you were at the one last year. And was there anything unique that really impressed you, what they did?
From last year? Well, obviously learning the new spray techniques is something new. But I think what's going to encompass this year is, Ryan, I'm going to ask a couple of questions here as we got just a few minutes left. We're going to see some new fruit that we haven't seen here before. So I think that's a big pull to bring people in. And it's kiwi, but it's not the normal kiwi that you think of. So give us just a little tidbit about that before we get out of here.
How much time do we have?
We have about 3 minutes. We'll say.
Okay. Well, quickly, yes, I'm glad you mentioned it. I did want to bring that up. So we received a grant through the Ohio Department of Agriculture, and 2 of those new crops that we're going to be looking at is hardy kiwis and hardy figs. So if you think about fig Newtons, or you think about those kiwis that you get in the supermarket, the difference with these kiwis, anyways, what you get in a supermarket are much larger. They're, if you would imagine, they're about that size, and they have fuzz on their skin. So hardy kiwis are much smaller. They're about the size of a table grape, what we talked about earlier, and they don't have fuzz on their skin. So their growth habits are very similar to grapevines. We would train them very similar to grapevines. So that's one thing that we're going to be looking at. Currently, we just planted those this spring, late spring. We don't have a trellis system up, but we will talk about the trellis system. You'll be able to see those plants firsthand, and we'll talk about marketing and what you could possibly do with those products. And then on the other side of it would be the hardy figs. So we're looking at 3 varieties that might potentially do well here in Ohio. And that's kind of an interesting new crop that growers might add to their lineup to diversify their farms.
Yeah, it seems like the South Centers has really helped a lot of different farmers with some of the new research programs. And it sounds like kiwi and figs are new cash crop.
Absolutely, yep. Yep, that's the whole point of our facilities down here, is to help farmers diversify their product line, and the bottom line is to make them some more money, to help them make more money. So.
Well, and one more thing I'd like to mention is also, I think, what we seen last year is a container garden. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So that's still established here. That'd be this is the last year of funded research for that project. But we looked at blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries in containers. Very neat system. You know, what I mentioned before, we have kind of crummy soils here in Ohio. That was the biggest reason we were looking at container production with those fruits.
So when we say container, we're talking about a pot, not like a great big tub,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. A pot or, what we used was 10-gallon containers, but as far as raspberry production, you can go smaller, a 3-gallon size, but we used 10-gallon containers for the longevity purposes, because we knew that we'd be keeping these crops in for many years. So we wanted to give those plants enough room to grow.
Sure.
So that's what we went with.
All right.
So
Great.
we'll see that and talk about that as well.
Super.
Yeah.
Hey, we're talking about the upcoming Blueberry, Bramble, and Wine Grape Field Night, September the 6th, 6:30 till it gets dark.
5:30 to 8:30.
5:30 to 8:30.
Yeah.
And $25 well spent. You not only learn the latest and greatest, they even feed you. We ask that you call Brad Sherman by August 31st to register. Ryan, I hope you come back and you share the different pictures and different things that you talked about at the field night.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you having me on, Patrick.
Thank you.